Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at Michael Stackpole's second book in the Warrior trilogy, Warrior: Riposte. I have my copy here. This is the 10th anniversary edition. It was published initially in 1988. It is the second novel published by Michael A. Stackpole, who will begin to write a lot of books after his first novel in the trilogy, Warrior on Guard, which I reviewed for you recently. This is the second book in a three-book trilogy that got himself started off in the Battletech universe, which tells the story of the Fourth Succession War. As a reminder, the first book was 360 pages long. I read 90 pages each day, was my goal on Saturday. I finished it, and then I knocked out the first 100 pages of the second book, Warrior Riposte, because I was still in the mood for some more Battletech. So I did 190 pages in one day. And then over the last couple of days, I finished the novel. So I really read it in 2 days, although I start 2.5 days, and then I split the other half with the last 90 pages from the other novel. But 2 calendar days, so it was pretty quick. 300 pages long, doesn't take that long to read. Although this one is more dense than the previous one, because the chapter headings don't end a chapter and then start the next chapter on the next page over. They'll just continue and pick up where it left off. So it's got probably about 20 or 30 pages less than it would be if it didn't do that, because there's a lot of chapters in here. So it's denser to read. So it took me longer for me to knock out these 300 pages than it did for the first 300 pages for the brief novel, by about 20 or 30 minutes longer. So it is a denser read for that reason, which is fine by me. I'd rather have a book that's 300 pages long and rather than 330 or 340 pages long, right? And those sorts of things. Anyway, I'm going to be giving this book a 7 out of 10. Now, Michael Stackpole is a different writer than the person who kicked this series off, William H. Keefe Jr. I've been going back and rereading a lot of things that I read when I was in junior high, college, or high school only once, and then I've never gone back and reread it. I've never gone back and reread any of my Battletech stuff, which I started reading when I was in 10th grade, with the first 3 books in the Rock series. This book was originally published in the first few books were published by the company that put out Battletech FASA, and then they were all the big ones except for one were republished later on when Rock Books picks up the line, and then does all the publishing. So this is a 10-year anniversary, published in 1998. Of the books that were published 10 years earlier, and kicked off the starter, and they kicked off Michael Stackpole. Michael Stackpole this is technically military science fiction, but Michael Stackpole's his stuff's really more political stuff, with fewer battles, and his battles seem much shorter. So it's less military science fiction than it is just future political thrillers, if you will, with the same sort of genre and with their combats in the military side of things, but that sort of thing. The first book is really just telling the prelude of the Fourth Succession War, and then this book spends the first 2/3 in the prelude, and the wedding of 2 key figures that's going to lead to it, and then the wedding is like 8 chapters, and then with a lot of things that are happening at the wedding scene of these 2 major players in the 6 of the 5 successor states, and then after the wedding, it's like maybe a third of the book left, and if that, and you're just doing you're fast forwarding a few months, and then the succession war has begun at the end of the wedding, and then you move forward, and it's like, and then these battles are like taking just a little bit of time. So you spent more than a book and a half of a trilogy building up to the Succession War, and then like the last third, and then the last book will be the Succession War, Fourth Succession War proper. So you're spending less than half of the book with the actual proper Fourth Succession War. It reminds me of the Chinese epic romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is supposed to be about telling the Three Kingdoms era of China. When it was divided into those 3 kingdoms. It's 120 chapters long, and it spends the first 80 of those chapters as a prelude to how the 3 kingdoms began, and then only 40 chapters in the actual proper thing, which it's supposed to be about. It's the same thing with this too, right? Michael Stackpole cares about building up the scenes. He cares about building up the scenery. He's got tons of plots, tons of characters, lots of backstabbing and political alliance making and backroom deals and those sorts of things that are happening, and a typical political thriller that you would expect, right? Those things are happening here too. So you could expect those things to happen, in this second novel too. And I prefer more combat and less political stuff from like William H. Keefe Jr. His key battle scenes would take chapters to write, and here you might have a half a chapter of a 6 or 7 page chapter. So you're spending like 3 or 4 pages on a battle scene, right? And it's not, you know, and I would prefer more battle. Military science fiction is my favorite subgenre of science fiction, so I think that's pretty cool. But again, if you want something a little bit different, if you want more of a political thriller, Michael A. Stackpole, going back and, if you would ask me before I'd gone back and reread these books, who was my favorite writer in the Battletech series overall, it would have been Michael Stackpole. But having reread William H. Keefe's stuff before this, which was published beforehand, so I'm reading his stuff before, his first book, Decision at Thunder Rift, was published in 1986, and this trilogy is published in 1988 and 89. I definitely feel like Keefe might be better. I might prefer him to Michael Stackpole, at least his first couple of novels. Now we'll see what winds up happening with his later stuff. But he tends to write the big epic events that are happening and these big sweeping epics, whereas William H. Keefe kicked off this 100+ novel line. He's really more of a just focuses on one unit, one campaign, takes a nice deep drill down into this one epic campaign, gives you all the battles, all the behind the scenes maneuvering, all those sorts of things, and really spends a lot of time with one campaign. That takes place on 3 separate planets for the mercenary force called Grey Death Legion and its CO, Grayson Death Carlisle. And so that is sort of what's happening behind, if you will, sort of, and that kicks off the launch that Stackpole's writing into. So now we're going to move to the third book of Michael Stackpole in this trilogy, which finishes things off. And that's it. We'll finish this up. But there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Once again, Battletech is if you've never heard of it before, it's set in the 31st century. And we have taken all of our issues with us to the stars. We're not any better as people than we are now. So we're taking all of our issues to the stars. We have settled and colonized thousands of systems that are out there, but we still have our same war, same issues, same divisive things that are happening, just like right now are happening in the future too. So I like that central concept of it. There was a time, for about 300 years, under an era called the Star League, which was the sort of the high and bright era. Peace reigned, lots of exploration was happening, a lot of trade was happening, a lot of development and infrastructure was happening. It was a time of pride. For about 300 years, it falls when a person named Stephen Amaris takes over, and there's a coup, and then a civil war that happens. After that civil war, there are 5 successor states that are vying for the inner sphere, the central area of the universe that we have. And these 5 successor states have started the 4 now successor wars, which are very, very nasty weapons of mass destruction type level sort of things. And the first 2 are particularly nasty. But then the third one is less so, because they saw how nasty the first 2 were, and then so they become less like antagonistic towards infrastructure and especially military infrastructure, right? And becomes much more things. Anyway, the world is much more feudal now than it has been in the past, and so those sorts of, and so all of our key characters are typically nobility in the inner sphere. In the successor states, although there are some soldiers too, in the Michael Stackpole series. But anyway, there you are. I'll go ahead and leave it to it. Have you read this novel? What did you think of it? Would you like to talk about it in the spoilers in the comments below? As a reminder, I keep my reviews spoiler free, but I'm happy to talk with you in the comments below if you'd like to talk about some of the spoilers or the ending or anything like that. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.